Wakili Wilfred Nderitu is an advocate and he joins us this morning. You've seen him many a place and you've also heard him. He joins us in this conversation this morning to talk about compensation for victims. And then what? Wakili, good morning.
Good morning to you, Ndu.
Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure to have you here to then be able to discuss some of these pertinent matters. Started to delve into the conversation a little bit and, of course, taking into what's happening in terms of a national discourse, but then also national interest and sensitivity. Then what happens after that? So thank you for being part of the part 2 of this, because then we can really get into some details. But before we do that, Dennis is going to welcome you with today's proverb.
Yes.
As you are in the business often of interpretation, this should be easy for you.
We are in Guinea-Bissau. We just established the people of Guinea-Bissau are known as the Guineans of Bissau. So it is an interesting country because it is an archipelago made up of 80 islands, and they have hippos that swim in the salty waters of Guinea-Bissau. In Kenya, you just go to Lake Victoria, any freshwater lake, and you'll enjoy our hippos. Theirs is different. They love salt water. But let's go to the proverb. The drum sounds loudest to the one who carries it. The drum sounds loudest to the one who carries it. How would you interpret it?
Interesting. I think there may be perhaps 2 ways of looking at it. One way is whether the drum is playing to music. And if you are carrying it and drumming it and you enjoy the music, then it will sound even louder than it will sound to others. But on the other hand, if you are hearing it and it's disturbing you, then that presents a totally different scenario. So that you find that the one who's carrying it will bear the brunt of what they're doing. And I would want to just look at that now in terms of real life situations. And sometimes people think that they're playing the drum very, very hard. But and they seemingly enjoy it. But they end up having to bear the brunt of that drum that they're playing without going into too much detail. I think you get the drift.
Wow.
That's a new way of looking at it.
Absolutely. An interesting way of looking into it. Well, thank you for that. And I guess that we're going to quite some interpretation as we have this conversation today. Because whereas it is a social justice matter, it's a national matter, and that also involves people and the ones they loved and those who loved them, as well as property that they had spent time, money to acquire that has been damaged. But it also goes beyond that, and it talks about a trend that has been very present for time. Yesterday, we were met with a bit of a reality to the fact that compensation or even trials for certain clash or protest activities 13 to 18 years later have not been decided upon. So what is to then state that this current one then will happen? So those are some of the intrigues that we get into. But what does compensation mean beyond the money? And should you pay the money, what happens next?
Okay, I think compensation, first of all, we need to look at it in context. That it's a means of trying to redress a wrong that has already been committed. So in that sense, we're looking at a compensation happening in the present, but the wrong happening in the past. The wrong is historic or historical. And what that means is this, that when you're redressing a wrong, the first thing is that there has to be promptitude. You cannot say in March of 2015, as was said by former President Uhuru Kenyatta, who was deputized by the current President Ruto. You cannot say that there will be a 10 billion shilling fund that will be set up and would be accumulated over a period of 3 years. And then 2015, 2026, that's 11 years. Nothing has happened. And that now, in fact, doesn't look like it will ever happen because it then related to other violations, not the ones that are targeted with regard to the current to the current initiative to compensate victims. So what does that mean? It means that the victims of the post-election violence, for example, and I say this pretty much straight from my heart because I did act for the victims at the ICC.
Yes.
They have no hope of being compensated. But even closer, if you look at the people that suffered in other situations, then again they would be left out. I do not know, or I do not understand what the magic is for 2017, because there really need not to be any special magic regarding that. And I'm saying this again, of course, with a lot of difference to those who have suffered after 2017. I'm not trying to play down or trash their plight because it's absolutely important, but it's really just as important as the plight of those others who had suffered before this cut-off date.
Yeah.
And so my hope is that in due course, the government will think about expanding that pie.
Okay, even as we talk about expanding the pie and compensation being given to those who have suffered injustices, there is the other conversation where by the time anyone is paying, it's an admittance of a mistake, of a wrong that has been done, that you will pay me for having lost a loved one, but that will never take away the pain and has not brought me justice that I rightfully do deserve. So is the compensation that we're looking at today has been equated to blood money? Can we pay and not offer justice at the end of the day?
Absolutely not. We must start where we must start, if I may put it that way.
Yeah.
And where we must start is first to acknowledge the wrongs that were committed. After we acknowledge the wrongs, the violations, sometimes the word wrong sounds wrong because it's a bit too soft when you're talking about deaths of lots of people in circumstances where they ought not to have died whatsoever. So acknowledgement is the first thing. After acknowledgement, then there is apology. I do not understand that there has been any apology made by the government at all. And the president had a unique opportunity on Monday to make a public apology to the people. Most importantly, the victims, their families, and then also to the country at large.
So what he said did not equate to an apology to the people. He said that, he was sorry for the actions that were taken by police, and that he then made a commitment that he would never again give an order where something like this then would be the resultant effect of police being on the streets.
Let's look at this in context.
Okay.
Monday was the first working day after Friday. What happened at the All Saints Cathedral?
On Friday?
On Friday?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are we able to sincerely say that say the president was sorry, the government was sorry, when all these things are happening? Where has been, or where has the National Intelligence Service been? It's not a coincidence that there were goons that were sent to All Saints Cathedral. It's not a coincidence, if you ask me, that this giving of compensation, which is being said to be given within 1 week, I think now 3 days have gone. We expect another 3 or 4 days. I don't know if the weekends are going to be counted. If they're not going to be counted, then where will it be falling? It will be falling to Wednesday next week, which would be the day before the second anniversary of the Gen Z protests. I think there are very serious questions about that. And especially if you look at the forwarding note by the chairperson of the Kenyan National Commission on Human Rights, Miss Clarice Oganga. Yeah. You will see that the forwarding note is dated 5th of May. And so, in short, everything was ready as at 5th of May, and then we wait until the 15th of June to say we are compensating. And then back to the question of an apology. I learned at some point in time that there is a difference. Sometimes it looks subtle, but I think it's there, between being sorry about something and apologizing about something. Apologizing, in my view, is taking the driver's seat about a situation. And the taking of the driver's seat, again, should not just be sitting on the driver's seat, but ensuring that one conducts things properly. So what I'm saying is that I do not understand that there has been an apology. And in fact, people have come out. There is a lady who was talking about her child on TV. Very distressing to, when you see what she is saying, you listen to her, and she is saying the government basically just give me its back. Yeah.
What? Like you said, there's nothing that can bring back a life. And of course, as we come towards there's, like I said in the beginning, there's a string of events that then would make you question whether compensation is actually authentic in its genesis. Is it bowing to public pressure that then says you must do something about this? Because the chatter was about, and the rumblings had begun as we got closer and closer to June, and then getting closer and closer to June 25th, and people are saying things have not changed and we're going to go back. We are going to remember the blood on the streets, the bodies that were piling up, and all of this, because people were exercising their rights. Because that's the premise of all of this, isn't it, Wakili? That people were exercising their rights to then be able to process against something that they felt was not going in the direction in which it ought to. But if we are going to say, looking into similar threads, how far back then should compensation go? 2007. Wagala massacre. When we talk about Truth and Reconciliation Commission, how many resolutions of commissions have not been actually followed over time that would sway people to imagine that even this compensation would actually not happen?
Well, I think the answer lies in, first of all, coming up with an independent body. You cannot be the violator, and at the same time, you are the do-gooder.
The fixer.
So, first of all, even questions of trust between the victims and their families vis-a-vis the government are still there. The victims, as I understand it, would be comfortable having or seeing people who are not handpicked by the government and who are not involved in government in any way, and who would come and do their job in very much the same way as other countries that really want to move forward have done. Having an independent truth, justice, and reconciliation commission. South Sudan has gone even farther. They've got, I think, 5 different aspects that they're looking at in terms of their violent past.
Okay, we look at the honesty that lies in there, and you look at the Gen Z demos in 2024, many were killed. After that, you go to the Nani demos as well. A few were killed as well. The following year, the Gen Z anniversary as well. There were killings that we saw again. And then there was the formation of broad-based government that then was supposed to quell things up. That was politics now being played to address the already existing problem, but no one really spoke on the justice that needed to be given, because even in the 10-point agenda, the matter was there. But even with that broad-based government coming together, the actual matter of justice for the victims has never really been handled until date. You talk about the fuel prices demos as well that happened just the other day. Again, Kenyans were killed during that protest. And while the president would come and say, I will never again give an order to shoot to kill, and someone just asked the question, does that point to him having given an order for Kenyans to be killed, which is against the law? And what happens to he who gives the order and the command responsibility that he needs to take as the president for giving such orders? These are the kind of conversations that we should be honestly having, if at all we are saying that we need to stop these once and for all.
Yeah, it saddens me when admissions like those are made so casually.
Yeah.
Actually, to me, this was very, very casual. Oh, a friend of mine told me this. And because my government, my people did A, B, C, D. And so be it. That I mean, I'm not wishing criminal justice process, international criminal justice, or even local, because when the president leaves office, perhaps there may be questions he may have to answer before a court of law, now that we have an International Crimes Act, which was not in place in 2007. But I think there would have been better handling of that situation. Perhaps not even to mention it to the country at large. Because what it really suggests is this, that the government has killed. I don't want to say the president has killed. I haven't seen him do so, but the government has killed through security officers under his watch, through reckless orders that have been given, shoot to kill. At some point it was shoot to maim, it was shoot to, I don't know, do what. Yet, the president himself takes a back seat, folds his arms, flies whenever he wants to fly, and then comes and says, I have 2 billion shillings here to...
And let's put this thing to bed.
To give out. Never mind that every hour of my flying time costs the country so much. Never mind that in 2/3 of a day, 2 billion will have been lost through corruption, through wastage, because we're told that the figure is at least 3 billion. 3 billion every day. And what really is the message that is being passed across. I can't agree more that this is what I would say blood money.
Yeah.
Any which way you look at it, it would be blood money. In terms of being tainted money, it would be blood money in terms of I am paying for the blood that I drew from you. And that's really very painful to victims. It's really very painful to victims. And just if I may add, I'm not even sure whether we have any programs that have been put together towards the rehabilitation of the victims, particularly psychosocial rehabilitation for the victims and their families. I see it there, but I haven't heard much about it. We are hearing more about compensation for people who have died, or the families of people who died. But we're not hearing about those other longer-term issues that will need to continue being addressed for the rest of the lives of those who have been victims. Yeah.
Last week, protesters got into the streets of Laikipia, and they said, this thing, we cannot allow it, exercising their rights within the Constitution to lobby, picket, protest against a particular thing, which they did not find was incongruent with their rights as Kenyans. Some of them were shot and killed. Then again, like you said, we see Friday, where the potential of injurious harm then was within the All Saints Cathedral when goons disrupted a meeting. What am I saying? That even while this compensation conversation is happening, there are concurrent activities whereby the likelihood of somebody looking for compensation is high. But how about we move our eyes away from the conversation about compensation and insist on matters whereby it will be entrenched that certain behavior then will not be allowed to go? Should that be, I mean, I know that it sounds insensitive to say we can talk about compensation, but for how long will you compensate? Because the activities that bring about the reason for compensation still continue every day. How do we deal with that?
Yeah, interesting, because I was thinking about the same scenario a few days ago. And I was saying that if the courts can make an order that the Ebola facility, the construction of the Ebola facility does not continue, and then that is flouted by the government, because whoever is constructing with the blessings of the government, and then people are killed as a result. It cannot be anything else apart from impunity. Again, if you look at compensation is really not supposed to be, an everyday thing, a run-of-the-mill kind of situation. Compensation is really a transitional justice mechanism. And being a transitional justice mechanism, it is not something that we are supposed to be doing as a matter of course, where we say, all right, we kill, we compensate.
Yeah.
That's really not it. And that's why, together with the question that now the government has brought into the hands of the public, questions must be asked about the impunity that has been there on the part of government, the flouting of court orders, which continues, the withdrawal by the DPP of cases which are, even a standard one, a grade one student would be able to tell that here,
off book.
Yeah. We need to see accountability. I see, and particularly when there is even video evidence on a lot of the situations that keep on eventually being being withdrawn by the DPP. So it's a larger question than just compensation. We really must go back to the basics and ensure that there is accountability, and that calls for an overhaul of a lot of our institutions, including the judiciary.
Wakili appeared for post-election violence victims, and we know the work that went into that, and the promise in 2015 of the 10 billion shillings that would go into compensating the victims at the time. We are in 2026 today. Since 2015 to today, that has not been done. We are seeing other promises being given by the president, and whilst we acknowledge that compensation is just part of it, in terms of transitional justice, it's usually the last thing to do, because you must deal with justice, making sure that you deter this from happening ever again. Do Kenyans, where you sit, trust government when it comes to matters compensation, if already since 2015 that has not happened, and another promise of we promised this will never happen again?
I am trying to suppress some laughter because, again, I was asking myself the same question, and I was saying, let's wait until the 25th of June and see who will have been compensated, how much they will have been compensated with. We have had a lot of situations, for example, even with the fuel prices. And things that never came to pass. Today, fuel has been equated to diesel. So that if you drive a petrol vehicle, then it doesn't matter. The price of petrol doesn't have to come down. But what are the optics behind that? The optics behind that are that then the matatu industry can be managed and perhaps keep their fares low, and the ordinary mwananchi then might not have reason to protest. That's the way I see it. So I do not think that there is a lot of trust that the ordinary Kenyan has in the government today. And it's really sad. But trust can be cultivated. But perhaps it needs more than just the same people saying the same things. Because look at the scope of compensation that's there vis-a-vis all the monies that were being given to churches here and there, all the monies that were being given out at State House. And then you ask yourself, what in the scheme of things is the more important thing? And should I trust a system that seems to reward only certain groups of people for reasons of expediency, or should I trust a government that I can see is doing things for me? That's really the question.
So, lived experience usually is the best teacher. That you can say, based on what I've seen happening before. A lot of science is based on that this reaction has been caused as a result of putting these things together. It can be assumed that this is what's going to happen if I did it again. Is it anything to go by? Like you say, from the 5th of May to the 15th of June, we're on the 18th today. It's a week today exactly that will be the anniversary of the June 2024 protests. What is the likelihood? And we can speculate, or you can look into your crystal ball, but what is the likelihood that this will actually be done? And then how do you play that vis-a-vis some of the very people that you represented at the ICC years ago, who till today have not seen a coin of recompense since then?
Yeah, I think it's of course they feel let down. I feel let down. I remember in June of 2016, I filed lengthy submissions to the ICC, to Trial Chamber 5A, which was hearing the case against Ruto and Sang. And I was really making a passionate plea for for reparations to be made on behalf of the victims, because the international law recognizes that internationally, acts that are considered harmful and are considered harmful internationally are the subject of reparations. And it doesn't even matter whether a case is lost, like the case against Ruto and Sang was lost. And we all know the reasons why that case was lost. It's well documented. I won't go into it. But if we look back, we see that whenever there has been a country willing to take up the question of reparations, that has been done. If you go back to the history of the International Court of Justice, for example, as early as 1928, which is 98 years ago, decisions were being made for reparations in connection with internationally harmful acts. But what's the history that Kenya has had? Even when there was what is arguably or was better governance, right from independence, compared to the situation that we find ourselves in today, we find that the government of Kenya did really nothing for the Mau.
Yeah.
The Mau and their families had to look for private legal assistance to make a claim against the British government. Well, technically speaking, it would have been possible for the Republic of Kenya to make that claim on
their behalf.
On their behalf.
Okay.
Look at the Batuk situation with sexual violations. Again, the same thing. It had to take a private class action litigation to get to get payment for the victims, and that is still the MO. And I don't see that is likely to change anytime soon, unless people are prepared to change the impunity narrative, to change the governance narrative, to change even our relations one to the other.
Yeah. Okay, there is the question of consequence, where you find, say, during the Gen Z process that we see, there is an order that was given by somebody because a police officer appears to maintain order because there is an order that has been given by the seniors. By the time a police officer goes to the armory, it's an order to take that gun and a specific number of bullets, and it's written down to help even with investigations later. But here today we are seeing the taxpayers, people of Kenya, are being forced to pay for recompense for crimes that were committed by an individual. Why do I bring that? Because we've created a culture where we will go and commit crimes and we know taxpayers will pay it. We have never really gone back to command responsibility on individual basis, where the police officer who gave the order take responsibility for the crimes committed to individuals. That the 2 billion we're talking about today, which should be paid by individuals who gave the orders that committed the crimes that we see today. Would you reckon that if that is then the move going forward, that individuals will take note that these will come to bite me because the order emanated from me? That if the president gave the order that he said in public that the 2 billion shillings is being paid today should come from
it's not a hard, it's not an easy question to deal with.
Yeah.
And the reason is this, that even where there is there is a clear way where liability can be placed on the one, there is also almost always a clear way through which the system can beat that. And this is, if I go back to the question, for example, of the withdrawal of cases by the DPP, those are cases that have, in the first instance, been brought against specific individuals, not just, government did this. But at some point, then they are withdrawn because they are powers that are being exercised, but being exercised wrongly. Perhaps what we need is to now zero in on those who end up exercising the powers wrongly and read the Riot Act to them, because it cannot be. For example, I was dealing with a matter where the DPP had filed papers saying that the court did not have jurisdiction to deal with that particular case. And a few days later, the same DPP withdraws that notice of objection. So what, on the one hand, the DPP is saying is this court has no jurisdiction. So how does he just suddenly wake up and see, no, the court has jurisdiction? Because that's really the purport of the withdrawal. I think we need to move very, very hard and ensure that these people get squeezed. And I'm not just talking about the DPP. There are 1,001 other situations that have the same thing. Look at the situation in the judgment on the Gachagua impeachment, where 50 million shillings is awarded, payable by the Senate. Who is the Senate? The Senate, as far as I know, has never taken in one whiff of breath. It's individuals. But what will happen? Even if I know he has said that he doesn't want the money. If I were the one, perhaps I would want the money. What I'm saying is that there is not going to be accountability until we set up the structures. I think the failure that we have right now is in the structures. And we need to stop, for example, this thing of saying every time that, this is a public interest matter. Now, I'm talking judiciary. This is a public interest matter, and therefore, each party should bear its own costs. The principle really is supposed to be this, that the party that has raised a public interest matter should not have to pay costs, even if they lose. But the party against whom the public interest matter has been raised then must be held to account, because a lot of times even those public interest matters result in substantial savings for the party that may have lost, but they should be condemned to pay costs, so that then that message can be constantly hammered into our thinking.
So who bells the cat? Because there seem to be so many moving parts to impunity. And it seems as though there needs to be one center whereby it's saying, come on, guys, we've got to get our act together. Who bells the cat?
Well, it has to be a collective effort. And the other day, I was speaking to a senior, very well-meaning politician. And I told the politician, I would want to start a coalition of the willing on matters such as this. Accountability, peace for next year, because right now, if you look at all the tweets on X, you really have reason to fear. If you go onto the Nairobi streets, you have reason to fear. If you go into social places where somebody is speaking in a different language from yours, you start fearing. We have been made to feel insecure because the government does not care. So we must take power into our hands. I'm not saying that we do it in a non-constitutional way, but then we had initiatives. For example, in the 90s, there was the Citizens Coalition for Constitutional Change. Mm-hmm. We had various other groupings. We had a social, a civil society that was vibrant. Yeah. Of course, it has been clipped, but then it can still rise, and it can rise before we get into the next elections.
And isn't this what we're talking about, that across board that there needs to be action? Because we're talking about compensation today for victims of a situation where there was reckless behavior and that was the wanton abuse of power that took lives, that killed people.
Yeah.
People didn't lose their lives. People were killed. And we're saying that property was damaged and or destroyed by intentional elements included in what would have been protests. Right? This is the reason. Innocent business people lost property. It was damaged. Innocent lives were taken. People were killed. But the overarching thing that we're looking at here is that there were abuses of power. There were abuses of just simple human behavior that could show up later. So when we talk about collective effort and we talk about change, Wakili, show me one place on this planet where change was instituted that was comfortable.
Well, change must never be comfortable. If that's what you're asking about. I mean, change is something that has to be fundamentally almost antithetical to our comfort zone. It has to be. But I am not prepared to believe that there are no people who can move this country into a situation where we get this change, and they do not have to be people who are vying for positions in 2027. In the past, I think the country has done quite a bit of good in that regard, particularly in the 90s. I saw the 90s, and I don't think we have seen a more spirited era than between 1992 and 2002. But then thereafter, we have just gotten into a cycle of violence every so often.
So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And really quickly, even as we wrap up this conversation, like you said, the person who was involved in messing the thing up then cannot be attributed the powers of the fixer. So would you then say that the folks who are doling out the cash, the 2 billion, regardless of where it comes from, the people who are being set up to fix the thing and attribute money, shouldn't actually be the ones trying to stir the pot?
They certainly should not be the ones. If you look at the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights website, for example, you will find that there is a report that they sent out last month about people who were trying to facilitate. Well, before the launch, people who are trying to facilitate the getting of compensation. They were condemned as fraudulent people. But I would want to imagine that this was not one person, two people, three people. There ought to be, by now, an arrest. Because if there is information that there is somebody who was trying to do ABCD, then it's easy to trace them and track them
you'll
down.
find them. Yeah.
So the way I see it is that it's not. It's really not possible to entrust those who are the violators. And let's not forget, for example, that on Monday, where was the public in all this? Everything was being done in the comfort of State House. This is a national issue. This is the kind of thing that needs to be done out at Kasarani or at Nyayo Stadium, where people can understand that this is about the entire nation.
Indeed.
Just like the National Prayer Breakfast, which should not be in 5-star hotels. Yeah.
Indeed. Thank you very much for being here with us, Wakili, opening up some of these things for us to get insights and understanding, to engage in conversations, essentially is what is being part of a collection of the willing, a concert of the willing to come about and bring certain change. Thank you for being in the Situation Room this morning, and we look forward to more conversations with you.
Thank you very much to both of you for having me.
Karibu sana.
Asanteni sana.
Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.